Certainly. Here's an expanded version of Keynote 1, the alien perspective on humanity's predatory nature, with an added ending sentence. Keynote 1, the alien perspective on humanity's predatory nature. Setting the stage, Nira'Cax, an alien diplomat from the Federation of HFY, arrives on Earth as part of a peace delegation with the responsibility of fostering first contact between her people and humanity. Nira belongs to a species known as the HFY, whose physiology and culture differ significantly from those of humans. Her species, with soft, bioluminescent skin and retractable tentacles, has historically been a peaceful one, thriving on harmony and diplomacy. In the Federation of HFY, social structures are built around collective thought, nonverbal communication, and complete aversion to violence. Predatory creatures on our home planet are rare, and the few that do exist are feared and avoided. As she steps onto Earth for the first time, she is immediately struck by the humans' features: their forward-facing eyes, muscular frames, and sharp teeth. In her culture, these are defining characteristics of apex predators. The HFY believed that such creatures survive through domination and force, preying on weaker beings for survival. Her instincts sharpen as she tries to suppress a deep-seated fear. She reminds herself that humanity's achievements in technology and science hint at higher intelligence, but her suspicions remain. The human capacity for invention could just as easily be used for hunting as it could for peace. This belief solidifies as she witnesses human behavior in the dining hall, where crowds gather in noisy groups, laughing and chatting while consuming food. Nira interprets this as a kind of predatory ritual, where humans, like pack hunters, consume their prey in the presence of their companions. As she observes, she becomes increasingly certain that her initial fears are valid. Humans must derive some bond or joy from these predatory acts, given the enthusiasm with which they consume their meals. In her mind, they are nothing less than a highly social, dangerously intelligent species with an appetite for dominance. When her assigned Earth liaison, Jason, enthusiastically invites her to dinner in a private setting, Nira's fear spikes. To her, the suggestion carries an ominous undertone, as private meals are rare and deeply symbolic in her culture. Only the closest of bonded pairs dine together, often as a way to forge unity or, in some cases, as part of a sacrificial ritual. She fears she may be part of a final feast destined to be devoured as an offering or initiation into this new world. Despite the diplomatic mission's insistence on good relations, Nira silently steels herself for what may be her last act of duty. If humans were the kind of species to hunt their diplomatic visitors, she would at least go down with honor. Her thoughts race as she wonders whether the humans will consume her as part of a cultural ritual, or if perhaps her essence will become a trophy of humanity's conquest over alien life. She is determined to face her fate with dignity, whatever it may be. But as Jason leads her into the dining area, wearing a bright, welcoming smile, she realizes that nothing could have prepared her for the strange reality awaiting her. Here's an expanded version of Keynote 2, miscommunication and fear, with an added ending sentence. Keynote 2, miscommunication and fear. Nira's fear intensifies as she interprets human gestures and language through her cultural lens, her confusion creating a tense, almost surreal atmosphere. Once she is seated in the small room Jason refers to as the dining area, Nira's anxiety mounts. The setup seems surprisingly casual, with a small table and 2 chairs rather than the elaborate feast she had imagined. Still, every aspect of Jason's behavior seems suspicious to her. His bright grin, the sparkle in his eyes, and his insistent cheerfulness all feel like a well-crafted deception. His obvious enthusiasm makes her feel like she's a prized meal he has been eagerly anticipating. When Jason hands her a menu with colorful pictures of various dishes, Nira's fear sharpens further. The images of cooked meat and strange, unfamiliar plants, decorated with sauces and sides, seem like a catalog of her potential fate. With every item she reads steak, roast chicken, barbecue ribs, she imagines herself in their place, sizzling and garnished, as she's prepared for the humans' enjoyment. She begins to suspect that these dishes are, in fact, symbols of past sacrifices, maybe even a ritual that each new visitor must undergo. Her translator is glitchy with the menu terms, and the strange words only serve to confirm her growing paranoia. Jason, oblivious to her anxiety, continues trying to make small talk, asking her about her journey and what she thinks of Earth so far. To him, this is just a friendly conversation with a new friend, but to Nira, every question sounds like a subtle probing for information, a predator gauging his prey's reactions. The cultural chasm between them is widening with every word. She tries to respond diplomatically, but her voice trembles, her words terse as she struggles to hide her dread. When Jason finally sets a tray of food between them, she recoils slightly, as if expecting him to reveal her dish any moment now. Seeing her reaction, Jason tries to reassure her with a friendly tone. It's okay, really. Just some good Earth food to share. You don't have to worry. He reaches for a piece of bread, smiling warmly, and encourages her to do the same. But to Nira, the bread, soft and warm in his hands, looks suspicious. In her culture, offering food to another is a ceremonial act, a sign of intense commitment and even control over the recipient. She interprets his gesture as a command, a test to see if she'll submit to him by partaking in what could be a final ritual. As he watches her hesitate, Jason's smile fades slightly, his eyes softening with concern. "Nira, are you okay? You seem nervous." His voice is gentle, but to Nira, it feels like the calm before the storm, the voice of a creature ready to pounce. "I am unfamiliar with your customs," she replies carefully, hoping to deflect his attention. She's torn between diplomatic duty and survival instinct. Every fiber of her being is telling her to flee, but her mission demands she remain civil, to avoid offending the human representatives. But when Jason reassures her that it's safe, really, just try a little, "It's not like we're gonna eat you," she freezes, his words confirming her deepest fears. Her heart pounds, her mind racing. He just openly admitted it, she thinks. They truly intended to eat me, but now they're playing mind games to test my loyalty. However, seeing her still uncertain, Jason pauses, picking up on her fear. "Hey Nira, it's okay," he says slowly, gently. "This is just about sharing a meal. On Earth, eating together means we're friends, not food." For the first time, she hears a glimmer of understanding in his voice. She meets his gaze, her fear slightly softening as she realizes that perhaps her interpretation was mistaken. As Nira looks into his sincere eyes, she starts to wonder if humans might be less dangerous and far more mysterious than she first assumed. Here's an expanded version of Keynote 3, The Unveiling of Friendship Through Shared Meal, with an added ending sentence. Keynote 3, The Unveiling of Friendship Through Shared Meal. Jason realizes her discomfort and takes extra steps to explain the concept of sharing food in human culture as an act of friendship, breaking down the cultural barriers that have held Nira in fear. Seeing her hesitation, Jason carefully sets the tray down and sits back, giving Nira space. Her reactions have finally clued him in to the fact that something is terribly wrong. His usual charismatic approach doesn't seem to be working, and he's not sure why. But he's determined to bridge whatever gap lies between them, even if it means unraveling the confusion piece by piece. "Hey Nira," he says gently, his voice softening. "I can tell you're a little uneasy. I promise, there's no rush. Let's go at your pace." This gentler tone surprises her. She hadn't anticipated such patience from a predator. In her mind, no carnivore would extend this kind of courtesy to its prey. She glances warily at the food on the table, her thoughts racing. Could it be that this meal isn't part of a ritual or trap? Jason, noticing her gaze, reaches for a piece of bread and slowly dips it into a small container of creamy, unfamiliar material. "This is just cheese," he explains, holding it out for her to see. "It's something we humans enjoy with bread. Nothing weird, just milk that's been made into a solid. You can try it if you want, but no pressure." He takes a bite himself, chewing happily, making sure she sees that it's safe. In her culture, such direct consumption in front of another being would be seen as indecent, yet Jason seems completely unbothered, even casual. For the first time, she begins to feel that perhaps this meal isn't intended to intimidate her. As she watches him eat, he glances up and gives her a reassuring nod, encouraging her to try at her own pace. Tentatively, Nira reaches for a piece of bread. Her movements are slow, her eyes never leaving Jason's face. When she finally bites into the bread, she finds the taste and texture surprisingly pleasant. It's unlike any food she has known, soft, with a mild, comforting flavor that settles her nerves. Jason's encouraging smile widens, and he gestures to a bright red fruit on the tray. This is an apple, he explains. It's sweet and juicy. You might like it. He picks one up and bites into it, showing her the crisp white flesh inside, then hands another to her. Nira takes it, studying the strange, glossy fruit with curiosity. With a tentative bite, she experiences a burst of sweetness and juice that shocks her senses in the most delightful way. Jason laughs softly, seeming to enjoy her amazement. "Good, right?" he asks, watching her with that friendly, open look that confuses her more than any flavor. As they continue, Jason explains the human tradition of sharing meals. In his culture, eating together is a way of showing camaraderie, a practice that brings people closer. Nira listens, fascinated, her fear giving way to a cautious curiosity. For the HFY, food is rarely shared, and to do so implies an extraordinary level of trust or commitment. But for humans, he explains, sharing food is casual, a gesture of warmth, friendship, and even unity. She realizes with a growing sense of wonder that this meal is not a predatory act at all, it's an offering, a bridge between their worlds. Slowly, the initial terror she'd felt starts to dissolve, replaced by an unexpected warmth. She tells Jason, in halting words, about her people's solitary meal customs, explaining how food sharing is almost sacred in her culture. Jason listens intently, seeming genuinely interested in her words, and nods thoughtfully. "You know," he says with a soft smile, "I think that's pretty beautiful." "Different, but beautiful," he leans back, letting her take the lead in exploring each new food item. Every bite becomes a tiny leap of faith, a silent agreement between them to set aside fear and prejudice. For Nira, this moment is groundbreaking. Her understanding of humans is changing with each taste and every quiet exchange. Jason's unguarded kindness, his patience, and his willingness to explain even the smallest details show her a side of humanity that she hadn't considered possible. As she takes another bite, she realizes that this shared meal has transformed from an act of fear into an unexpected bond, a connection born from mutual vulnerability, and perhaps the first spark of a lasting friendship. Here's an expanded version of Keynote 4, the formation of a lasting bond, with an added ending sentence. Keynote 4, the formation of a lasting bond. Their meal, though simple, becomes a bridge between two worlds, with each bite a step closer to mutual understanding and connection. As they finish their shared meal, Nira feels a profound shift within herself. The fear that once gripped her has transformed into an unfamiliar warmth, something she might even call trust. Each morsel of food she sampled had been more than just sustenance, it was a gesture, a way of reaching across the vast divide of their different worlds. Jason's genuine enthusiasm and patience showed her that not only was humanity far less predatory than she had feared, but perhaps they shared a fundamental desire for connection, just as her own people did. Seeing that she's now comfortable, Jason takes the opportunity to share stories of human traditions and friendships. He explains how humans celebrate together, mourn together, and mark the passages of their lives by gathering around meals. These acts, he tells her, aren't just about eating, they're rituals of bonding, trust, and unity. Nira listens with fascination, absorbing his words as if they were revelations. It dawns on her that despite all their differences, humans and the HFY may not be so dissimilar after all. In return, Nira shares some of her own culture's customs. She explains how, in the Federation of Aox, meals are solitary acts, moments for inner reflection and personal growth. She tells him about the sacred bonding rites between her species, where one might offer food only to a trusted partner, and how even touching another being's meal is a sign of deep respect and kinship. Jason listens intently, asking questions and responding with a genuine appreciation for the values she holds dear. Each shared story feels like another thread in the fabric of a newly forming friendship, As they talk, Jason reaches into his bag and pulls out a small gift, a packet of seeds, specifically chosen because Nira had expressed curiosity about Earth's plants and ecosystems. These are seeds for a plant we call a sunflower, he says, his voice filled with warmth. They're resilient, and they follow the sun as it moves across the sky. I thought you might like them, and maybe you could plant them back home so you'll remember this visit and our first meal together. Nira accepts the gift with reverence, moved by the gesture. In her culture, the act of giving seeds is a symbol of future growth, a wish for peace and prosperity, a meaning that somehow transcends their species. She realizes that Jason, perhaps unknowingly, has offered her a gesture far deeper than he may understand. She clutches the small packet, silently vowing to honor his gift and keep the memory of this day alive in the soil of her homeland. They share a comfortable silence as they clear the table, both absorbing the significance of what's just transpired. To anyone else, it might have looked like an ordinary meal, but to them, it had been nothing less than a diplomatic breakthrough, a moment where two vastly different beings discovered a shared humanity. Finally, as they prepare to part ways, Nira places one of her species' symbols of friendship, a small, hand-carved charm from her world, into Jason's hand. This is a HFY bonding token, she says softly, her voice filled with gratitude. Among my people, we give it only to those we deeply respect. I hope one day you'll visit my world and allow me to welcome you as warmly as you have welcomed me. Jason accepts the charm with wide-eyed amazement and a smile that radiates genuine appreciation. I'd be honored, he replies, his voice steady but filled with warmth. They stand in silence for a moment, a profound understanding passing between them that words could never fully capture. As they part, each carrying the other's token of friendship, they realize that this shared meal has planted the seeds of an alliance far more resilient than any treaty, an alliance rooted in curiosity, kindness, and the unbreakable bond of a single shared experience. Story summary: she expected human to eat her, but not like that ... Nira'Cax, an alien diplomat from the peaceful Zalkar species, arrives on Earth believing humans, with their sharp teeth and predatory traits, are carnivores preparing to eat her. At a dinner with her human liaison, Jason, she nervously assumes that their meal is part of a ritual where she will be consumed. Jason, unaware of her fears, tries to engage her in friendly conversation. As the meal unfolds, Jason realizes Nira's discomfort and explains that sharing food among humans is a sign of friendship, not predation. Nira, slowly understanding, starts to relax as she tastes human food and shares stories of her own culture. By the end of the meal, she sees that humans are not predators, but beings capable of kindness and connection. Jason offers Nira sunflower seeds as a gesture of friendship, and Nira gives him a bonding token from her world. The meal, once feared, becomes a symbol of mutual respect and the beginning of a lasting interspecies bond.